I wouldn't do that to everybody, but you? Okay. I'm hop, skipping, and jumping to page 54. So here are two good opportunity questions. That often, there'll be two good opportunity questions. Just a second. Here we go. You got them in front of you anyway. So one is, if they're buying this from us, what else would they buy from us because it's us? Now, the because it's us is an important part of this question, because people in a relationship, in a good relationship, are automatically willing to expand the boundaries of the core goods and services that they get from that provider. Okay? They're ready and willing to do that. We just don't often ask them to do that. So, like, there's all sorts of things people buy from Disney that they would not buy from Disney if they weren't already in this great relationship with Disney. But because they are in this great relationship with Disney, they want to buy all this odd and peripheral stuff from Disney. So even Disney, for example, would find their Disney Institute business a hard business if they didn't have a whole bunch of business people, CEOs and presidents of companies, already coming to Disney with their families and going, shit, these people really know how to run a deal. So then it's easy business. Would you like to know how to run your deal like we run our deal? Shit, yes. Where do I sign? Right? And so it becomes a no-brainer to do it once you realize it. So it's a really good question. What will they buy from us because it's us? Now, then you have to fight the, well, that's not the business we're in, and, you know, yada, 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 right? And then tied to that, if they'll buy it from us, what premium version of it would a small percentage of people buy from us? Right? So I was going to show you. Let me show you this first. So there's a menswear store in Hudson, Ohio, where I buy my expensive stuff. And it is an expensive store. Right? It's dumb prices, mostly. Dumb money prices. But the stuff's really good. So, you know. So he, next to his store, open door between the two, has a dry cleaning place. A really expensive dry cleaning place. I mean, dumb prices. Carla is an extremely practical, frugal person. The story I always tell about Carla is, and she left today to go back to the other house. So the first thing I'll do this weekend is I will be cleaning the refrigerator, because we accumulate in our refrigerator. The door is full. You can't get any more in the door of salad bottles with one drop left in each. They're upside down in the salad drawer, the thing. They have a drop or two left. The only way, so she will put like 16 bottles of salad dressing out on the table with dinner. I'm like, what the and the only way you are getting any, you take a bite of lettuce, you put the bottle in your mouth, squeeze and suck. Okay? This is the salad dressing methodology, you know, and so I will go throw all this out, and I will buy full bottles of stuff, and 3 months later, we'll be right back to, you know, where we are now. I opened a jar of salsa last night. Honest to God, there's 4 little chunks of tomato in this jar. Now, I mean, really? We're rich, you know? I mean, you actually could throw this out. Right? So I have an arrangement at the dry cleaners. If she picks up the dry cleaning, he doesn't collect any money, charge a card, nothing. He just does it with my card on file because I don't want her seeing. She saw it once, and it was a topic of discussion for like a month of what the hell this dry cleaner is charging. You know, you could just replace them. You know, but now, in this defense, everything is perfect. I mean, perfect. He's the first dry cleaner in the world that in 2 years I haven't unwrapped something and there's been a button missing, the lapel's been folded over wrong, every sleeve has stuffed up paper inside it. I mean, everything is like perfect, but the prices are insane. This business would never work if it wasn't attached to the expensive clothing store. Because the customer who will pay him $3,000 for a suit is the customer who will pay $100 every time to get it cleaned and not think anything of it. Plus, from his standpoint, it brings the customer back through the store like 6 to 12 times a year. The average male apparel buyer goes to the clothing store twice a year. Right? They go at spring and they go at fall. That's when they go. The only other time they go is if there's a wedding or a funeral and they don't have something appropriate. But high-end people already got a funeral suit and they already got a wedding suit. They don't have to run out when that happens. So he's getting paid to 3 times the frequency of visitors to the store, and he is choreographed walking through the store to get to and from the dry cleaners. This guy's no dummy, all right? And that's this question. See, that's this. If they'll buy, what else will they buy? And what will they pay premium prices for? Because it's us. That they would not pay. If he wasn't in the dry cleaning business and there was a dry cleaner in the spot next to him, people would not pay his prices at that divorced from him dry cleaner. They only pay these prices because it is him. That's the deal, right? And then straight lines, what's logically next, and this is a really good one, what need or desire is created by the solution we sell that they have to go elsewhere to buy that we either ought to be selling to them or at least dipping our beak, getting a piece of the movement of that money. So often what we do creates, we solve one problem and we create the next problem for somebody. So GKIC's intertwined relationship with Infusionsoft is a perfect example of this. As a market maker for Infusionsoft, we were perfect. Because we create a massive problem for most business owners when we get them to understand complex, sophisticated, multimedia, multi-sequence, follow-up marketing. The problem we immediately create is, how the hell am I going to do all that? Harriet sets herself on fire when I go back to the office and show her the diagrams, right? I mean, we're running the whole thing on QuickBooks. And QuickBooks doesn't do this. Yeah, I know. So we created this, and until Infusionsoft, it was a big problem for us too. Because the main source of customer frustration was, okay, I get it. I buy into it. But we can't do it. Perfect. Perfect. They're like the perfect marriage, right? They improve our customer retention. We get money. Good deal all the way around. They're the solution to the problem that we created. I have a client right now in dentistry, Scheduling Institute, who increases the incomes of dentists a lot. I mean, a lot. And they are Marco Rubio given $800,000. So you increase their income a lot. Most of it disappears into stupid shit unless you take it from them. So the problem you've created is they suddenly got money. They are, this old joke I like. So there's a guy comes in a bar with a dog. Dog sits at the bar. Bartender says, can't have a dog in a bar. And the bartender says, this is a very special dog. I mean, the dog's in the bar with me drinking because he's like no dog you've ever seen. The guy says, like give me an example. He says, oh, well, I can send him to fetch stuff, like here. He takes a couple bucks out of his pocket. He puts it in the dog's mouth and says, go get me a package of Lucky Strikes. Bartender says, you got to be. No, guy runs out the door. The dog's back in a little while. He's got a packet of Lucky Strikes in his mouth. And the bartender says, that is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. You know, can I? Yeah, sure. So bartender puts the $10 bill in his mouth and says, go get me 2 packages of Lucky Strikes. Dog leaves, and the dog don't come back for like a long time. And they go looking for the dog, and they finally find him out in the alley, and he's making love to another dog. And it's funnier the other way. But there's some stuff that does not clean well, you know. But so he's out in the alley, and he's humping his dog, and they like separate him, and he's yelling at him, what are you doing? And the dog says, I never had $10 before. Now, so the dentists are the same way. You know, you take a guy from $20,000 a month to $60,000 a month, he'll blow it. So what's the solution to that? Money management. That's the solution to that. So you either got to get in the money management business, or you want a taste of the money management business that you lead him to, because you just created this massive need. And what's important to understand is, at that point, even though, regardless, they would rather buy money management from him than buy it from anybody else. Furthermore, because it's him, because they're connected to him, and they'll pay a premium price for it versus what they would pay anybody else. So when you think about customer or client value, see, this is a big expander of customer-client value, right? So my little Riley's illustration looks like this. So what do I create? I create a need for graphics that don't screw up the copywriting work. I create a need for audio production. I create a need for video production. And I create a need for books automatically with almost every client. So I either should be in that business, or I should at least be getting paid by every one of those that I push somebody to. And I do get paid by everybody I push somebody to. What else does my copywriting work create? A desire for people to talk to me on a regular basis. So now, what most copywriters would do is just do that. No, I have a formalized program, and they pay to have a monthly call with me. So you got to think about what else, and what else at a premium price, because it's you, and in many cases, because you created the need for it in the first place. There are, in almost every business, there are, and often they're concealed, they're not noticed, are multiplier factors. Things that, if applied to some aspect of the existent business, would not be wouldn't be addition math, it would be multiplication math. And not a lot of people look for it. Not a lot of people understand it when they get it. Right? So the multiplier factor, for example, in Tupperware's business, is Tupperware has absolutely mastered party begets a party. So they have systemized this to the point that the worst hostess putting on the worst party with the worst people in the room you could have, still over 90% of the time, every party books another party. That's a big multiplier effect. Huge, right? It may be the single most important component part of their entire business, possibly. Okay? Every business has some version of a multiplier factor inside it or waiting to be applied to it, and not enough people are searching for these all the time. So one, which I provided to some people in a newsletter not long ago, and it's going to come up a few pages from now in another context, but there's a current multiplier factor having to do with Hispanic market, not in the United States. And we'll get to the whole thing, but the key point about it is that response to websites goes up the minute you add Hispanic language, even from Hispanics in the U.S. who speak English. Doesn't make any difference. The revenue on the website goes up, and it goes up significantly. We'll get to the actual facts. So that's a multiplier factor, right? Adam Whitty and I were just having a conversation at lunch that we're going to have a longer version of sometime today, I think, if not today, tomorrow, and that is turning one customer into the equivalent of two customers, which is significantly easier than getting two customers. And again, so everybody's thinking about growth. They're thinking about, how do I get more customers? How do I get more customers? Well, what if we take the customer we got and we make them the equivalent of two customers? Because now we have no acquisition cost in the second one. The other way, we have the same acquisition cost every time we add a customer, right? So if a customer's worth $1,000 to us and it costs us $500 to get one, those two lines look like this. They just keep going. We add more customers. It costs us $500 to get each one. We don't do anything. If we turned every customer into two, these lines go like this. It's better lines. So multiplier factors are really important. One big one often that a lot of people are poor at, a lot of companies are poor at, people fight, is multiple distribution channels. And the most important thing to know about multiple distribution channels is they don't all have to be home runs. They don't all have to perform at the same level to justify being in them. It's okay if some do big things and some do little things and some do in-between things, particularly if they all ultimately deliver a customer to you that you get value out of beyond the initial transaction. And especially if you can be in it at no out-of-pocket money. So if you don't have to reach in your pocket to be in a distribution channel, I don't care if it delivers one customer a year. Why wouldn't you want to be there as long as they will let you be there, right? So if you look at companies like the wrestling, like Vince McMahon, so they have all sorts of distribution channels, more than I've named here, for their content. They have different product on different cable TV channels. I think they're on 4, if I'm not mistaken. They got something on Spike. They got something on the Food Network. They're in 4 different places. They have their own cable TV station. They do pay-per-view, so you pay just to watch the event, right? They got their own magazines, subscription and newsstand. They're in comic books. They got web media out the wazoo. Every one of the wrestlers has his own web media. A couple of them have their own comic books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, McMahon's approach is to have as many distribution channels as he possibly can. And every one of them, by the way, so if you look at TV, they all want exclusivity, and they all have exclusivity. They don't have exclusivity on WWE wrestling on TV, but one has exclusivity to Thursday Night Raw, and one has exclusivity to Championship something or other, and one has exclusivity to the women thing. And so they all got exclusivity. He's just made a whole lot of different exclusivities in order to sell them to different channels, right? Starbucks got their own stores, right? Store in store. The Target in our neighborhood has a Starbucks in it, and equivalent of 10 blocks down the road, there's a Starbucks store. Why would you compete with yourself? Why not? Right? As long as Target will put it in there, and it makes money, and the other one makes money, so there's some cannibalization, but so what? If they both make money, why wouldn't we compete with ourselves, right? And they all serve to hook somebody who now also makes their coffee at home with Starbucks And Starbucks sells coffee in their stores. Starbucks sells Starbucks coffee in other stores. Starbucks coffee is available for your little Keurig machine, on and on and on and on and on, right? So there's all kinds of products for home, branded, sold in all sorts of distribution channels. Do they cannibalize each other? I guess. What difference does that make? All right? So, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. I was going to do something. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can if Dave won't tell. I can if you won't tell.